Prophecy, in its true form, is man's best attempt at reading the currents of the world, of sensing the direction of the wind, and based on this, making an attempt at foretelling the future in some limited, if not accurate way. Traditional prophecy relies on divination via the gods, or the practice of sorcery. But true prophecy, based as it is on the best attempt to gauge a series of events and their outcome on the world, is quite different. And when it comes to human beings, is at times fairly easy. It turns out that neither eldritch magic nor divine omens are required to read the lay of the land, just that humans, the animals that we are remarkably predictable. And as the winds of prophecy had foretold in the days of yore, those ancient days long past of MGTOW content, predictably, as always, the woke, Woe-Is-Me woman has arrived on the scene, and not a moment too soon, for the clock is ticking, and redemption must be achieved, whatever the cost. But unlike the promise of Christianity, life knows no such forgiveness, no expiation of sins, whether intentional or unintentional, could be found in this life, just the relentless and pitiless race from birth to death, with humans scuttling about in their pettiness to aggrandize themselves in whatever fashion they deem most suitable to their selfish needs. The woke Woe-Is-Me woman is no exception to this, quite the opposite in fact. She represents the hard rule of humanity's smallness, conforming to her most base desires and delusions on the way to dusty death, fretting and strutting her hour upon the stage for the entirety of her time on it. Which prophecy do I refer to? Well, if you've not been paying attention, you will have noticed of late that there has been a spate of females on YouTube rejecting the manipulative brainwashing of feminist society and the cultural conditioning they've received, regretting their life choices, and broadcasting their profound realizations to the world. And this was prophesied long ago, most notably by Barbarossa, a man whose name these days is shockingly unknown in MGTOW circles of all places. Call them traditional women, call them woke, call them whatever. Their numbers are growing, but the real question is, what is their angle? Some of them might legitimately believe what they say, but what does that even mean? If a woman, say, who has studied and trained all her youth to become a doctor, then realizes that she's wasted her time to some great extent, is her subsequent confession to the world a profession of profound belief, or merely a profession of fear, and a concomitant desire to project those fears onto the outside world in an effort to secure consolation and sympathy? I truly wonder. Now, I want to reiterate a point I made a long time ago, and that is that women are only as loyal as their options, or the options available to them. And they are most loyal to the options that they perceive to be most expedient to them at any given moment. And perception is everything here, gentlemen. I want you to note that these women, these woke females, inasmuch as there is any authenticity to them, are coming forth in profession of their beliefs not for reasons of philosophical justice, or to correct the so-called chaos that feminism and modernity itself have brought about and wrought, but because in each and every case they perceive it to be expedient to themselves to do so, and because they believe that, smelling a trend, this so-called ideological turnaround, this grand revelation they proclaim to the world, will redound to their benefit. Nothing more, nothing less. These are not people who have seen the error of their ways and seek to correct it to become more upstanding and righteous human beings. Rather, they see their prospects ebbing away, and their loyalty is solely to what little remains of those prospects. Rest assured, women are not the architects of grand and abstract visions. They are the pragmatists of our species, and that pragmatism is most often directed towards the pursuance of their most base drives and desires, their instincts. In this case, the ship of feminism, and more broadly, modern sexual dynamics, is sinking, and they are scrambling to find any lifeboat they can so as to not go down with the ship. And there is another element to this. Much of it is, frankly speaking, pure attention-seeking. I do not need to name the channel, but in making reference to this person, many of you might know whom I am referring to, as she, by my estimation, embodies the very definition of the woke Woe-Is-Me woman. This woman, who I believe is a scion of kangaroos, spent all her youth studying medicine, having tragically been misled by the so-called culture to go down the wrong life path, who now uses YouTube as an emotional tampon to absorb her life mistakes, projecting and proclaiming to the world how she just wants a nice man whom she can treat well in exchange for the usually poorly contracted hypergamous deal. Her grand realization and insight is that working full-time as a doctor is not fun. Well, who would have thunk that one? And that working yourself into the grave is not that cool. Well, this stuff is frankly groundbreaking. All the while assuming and suggesting that men do in fact enjoy doing just that. And here's the point that women in general, and women like her, tend to miss. Men do not like working themselves to the bone because they enjoy it, as a rule, though there are a few who do. They work themselves into an early grave because they feel they have to. As the saying goes, women have choices, men have responsibilities. And the gall of women, such as this kangaroo lady, to suggest that it is acceptable for her fantastical, chimerical man to do so, but not her, because it is quote-unquote not fulfilling, is astounding. But that is the nature of the woke Woe-Is-Me woman. She is racing at breakneck speeds towards the wall, if she has not hit it already, and in her desperation sobs to the world of her fears and her regrets, with her clown paint on to disguise her withered face, and having seen the error of her ways, that she now is finally ready to be the kind, cooking, cock-sucking wife all men dream of. But this is a fantasy, and deep down the woke Woe-Is-Me woman knows her time has passed. Sometimes the mistakes people make cannot be fixed or rectified. Sometimes they have to live with themselves and their mistakes. Sometimes it is simply too late. Of course, there are differences between the women participating in this so-called wave of wokeness, as there are younger types who are riding off the woke waves of their looks with great success by imitatively repeating political and philosophical platitudes that they read somewhere online or on Wikipedia, and these younger ones have some insight. They know they have to cash in now before it is too late. They really don't have a woe-is-me sob story. They're too young for it. But they certainly do know how to manipulate and take advantage of impressionable young men. And for the most part, I can understand that. The numbers of young men who are actually red-pilled on sexual dynamics are vanishingly small, as spending enough time in a manosphere environment can and does lead to a distorted view such that one might be inclined to think that everyone knows about these things, but they don't, and a look at some of the more popular trad-thot channels will instantly reveal this. One really has to wonder what some of these young men hope to gain by dumping tons of money into some trad-thot's bank account in the hopes of garnering her attention at best, but that is another story for another time. No, what is more astounding is the degree of attention that is paid to the woe-is-me type, these pre- and post-wall women who create YouTube channels to project their sob stories to the world, and most curiously, why so many red-pilled men pay so much attention to these types. And maybe it's just me. After all, I've been in a state for years that I call rather simply post-woman. Long ago, I ceased caring about women in any way, shape, or form. I don't care about the plight of womankind or feminism or some kangaroo lady's worries about her future life with cats. I just don't give a shit. That is not to say I won't talk to or listen to a woman if she in some instance has something valuable to say. But let's be honest. How often does that happen? No, whether it is your Twitch thought, your YouTube trad thought, or any generic e-thought, they usually don't have a whole lot to say. The baubles they might have on display simply do not interest a man of my age to the same extent they might a much younger man. Never mind the woke woe-is-me woman who spends her time broadcasting her worries to the world about her life choices. Well, to that I say, cry me a fucking river. We all have shit to deal with. Some of it better, a lot of it worse, much worse. And the rest of us are not spending our time telling you about all of the mistakes we made looking for sympathetic ears. Deal with it. It's fucking pathetic. Why red pill men give these types their time and attention is truly beyond me. But whether they do or not, that car racing towards the wall has no brakes, so it really doesn't matter. Now, I stated before that women have choices and men have responsibilities, and the first and foremost responsibility of a man in today's broken age is to himself. And that is exactly what MGTOW is. Looking at the world, seeing it for what it is, knowing that the game is rigged from within and from without, and walking away from it all. Making sure your responsibility to yourself, to whatever little fulfillment you can have or find in this brief life, is met. As for all these women, I stopped caring a long time ago, and I would enjoin you to do the same. They don't care about you. They never did, and it's high time you return that favor to them. Thank you very much for watching. As this channel operates solely off of the generosity and contributions of its subscribers, please consider making a donation via PayPal or becoming a patron. Any and all support is more than appreciated.
If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.